The night had fallen, and the dim glow of streetlights cast faint shadows over the parking lot, illuminating the scattered old cars parked here and there. Jada Harper, a 32-year-old woman, sat in her worn-out sedan, trying to rearrange the pile of blankets on the driver's seat to find a more comfortable position. 6 weeks had passed since she started living in this car, a reality she still hadn't fully come to terms with. Every night, she struggled to find a spot in the cramped vehicle that didn't leave her with aching muscles and allowed her some semblance of rest. Jada was no stranger to hardship and perseverance. She had once graduated with honors in engineering from a prestigious university and spent her youth building a promising career. But life has a way of throwing unexpected, harsh turns. In just a few short months, both her parents fell gravely ill, leaving Jada with no choice but to abandon everything to care for them. The mounting medical expenses forced her to sell all her possessions, move out of her apartment, and eventually rely on her old car as her only shelter. In the stillness of the parking lot, the only sound was the faint hum of distant fluorescent lights. Jada felt as though the world outside continued to spin, while she remained stuck in place, left behind. She recalled the nights she spent sitting in the driver's seat, staring at the flickering streetlights, wondering if life would ever offer her a glimmer of hope again. Jada was lost in thought when she suddenly heard the sound of a car approaching. The engine was soft, barely audible, and she could tell it was an electric vehicle. Carefully, she pulled back the corner of the curtain covering her car window and peeked outside. A sleek black Tesla glided into the lot and parked a few spaces away from her. A tall man stepped out, wearing a black hoodie and jeans, though the dim lighting made it difficult to see his face clearly. There was something strangely familiar about him that piqued her curiosity. Quickly, Jada ducked down, pulling her blanket tightly around her. She didn't want to be seen in her current state, especially by someone who appeared so confident and successful. She remained as quiet as possible, hoping the man wouldn't take notice of her car. The man walked over to a nearby charging station, plugged in his car, and waited. As he glanced around the lot, his eyes briefly passed over Jada's vehicle before moving on. Jada let out a quiet sigh of relief, though a sense of unease lingered. She wondered whether he might pay her any further attention or simply leave after charging his car. Fate, however, had other plans. The man turned back and started walking toward her car. His steps were slow but purposeful, and though his demeanor wasn't threatening, Jada's pulse quickened. Her heart pounded as she heard a gentle knock on her window. "Hello," the man said softly, his tone kind and devoid of judgment. "Are you okay?" Jada hesitated, unsure of what to do. Part of her wanted to ignore the knock and pretend she hadn't heard it, but the sincerity in the man's voice made that impossible. Slowly, she rolled her window down just a crack, enough to hear him more clearly. "I'm fine," she croaked, her voice hoarse from days of little conversation. The man bent slightly, trying to see inside the car. As the light from the parking lot illuminated his face, Jada felt her stomach tighten. It was Elon Musk. None other than the CEO of Tesla was standing outside her car, looking at her with genuine concern. "You don't seem fine," Elon said gently, his tone free of any judgment. "Do you need help?" A swirl of emotions overcame Jada. Shame, helplessness, and a faint glimmer of hope. "No," she said quickly, her voice tinged with caution. "I'm fine." Elon tilted his head, his eyes thoughtful. "Are you sleeping in your car?" he asked, his voice direct but not harsh. Jada sighed, realizing there was no point in lying. "Just temporarily," she replied, trying to keep her tone steady. "I'm looking for a place." Elon nodded, his expression still full of empathy. "Do you have somewhere to go tomorrow?" Jada fell silent, a lump forming in her throat. "No," she admitted, her voice barely audible. Elon didn't speak for a moment, the silence between them stretching like a vast chasm. Then he straightened up. "Wait here," he said. "What?" Jada asked, startled and unsure of his intentions. "I'll be right back." Elon said, walking briskly toward his Tesla. Jada watched him, her mind racing with confusion and unease. She saw him pop open the trunk and pull out a bag. A moment later, he returned, carrying a blanket and a thermos. Here, Elon said, handing them through the window. It's not much, but it'll help you get through the night. Jada stared at the blanket and thermos in front of her, her throat tightening with emotion. Thank you, she said, her voice trembling slightly. Elon smiled, his expression warm and sincere. You're welcome. What's your name? Jada, she replied, clutching the thermos like a lifeline. Jada, he repeated, his tone earnest. We'll figure something out to help you out of this situation. Are you working right now? Jada shook her head, her voice reluctant. I've been looking, but it's been really hard. What kind of work are you looking for? Elon asked, his eyes never leaving Jada. Jada hesitated. I have a degree in engineering, she said, her voice tinged with both pride and bitterness. But after taking care of my parents, I just need something stable, even if it's not in my field. Elon raised an eyebrow, surprise evident on his face. You're an engineer? Jada nodded. I graduated a few years ago. I worked for a small tech company but had to quit to take care of my parents. Things fell apart. And now I'm here. Elon paused, a mix of admiration and concern flashing in his eyes. You've been through a lot, he said softly. You shouldn't have to bear all of this alone. Jada shrugged, her gaze dropping. Life doesn't always give you a choice. Elon was silent for a moment. Then he spoke. I think I might have an opportunity for you. Would you be interested? Jada blinked, unsure if she had heard him correctly. An opportunity? Yes, Elon said, his tone serious. It might not be exactly what you're looking for, but it's a start. Tesla always needs talented and hardworking people, whether in engineering or other areas. Would you like to give it a shot? Jada stared at him, her mind racing. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. Are you serious? She asked. Completely serious, Elon replied. Tears welled up in Jada's eyes, and she nodded. Yes, she said, her voice trembling. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. Good, Elon said, standing upright. I'll have someone from my team reach out to you tomorrow. For now, just rest. Jada nodded, clutching the blanket and thermos as if they were the most precious gifts she had ever received. Thank you, she said, her voice choked with emotion. Elon smiled, giving her a small wave before walking back to his Tesla. As he drove away, Jada watched until the car disappeared from sight. A faint glimmer of hope began to flicker inside her. A hope she hadn't felt in years. Maybe, just maybe, her life was about to change. The next morning, Jada woke to the soft light of dawn streaming through her car window. For a brief moment, she thought everything from the night before had been a dream. But as her eyes landed on the neatly folded blanket and the empty thermos on the passenger seat, she realized it was all real. Elon Musk hadn't just spoken to her. He had offered her an opportunity to change her life. All day, Jada couldn't shake the mix of nervousness and anticipation. She didn't know what to expect or whether the promise call would even come. Then, mid-morning, her phone rang, startling her. The screen displayed an unfamiliar number. Hello? She answered, her voice shaky. Hello, is this Jada Harper? A cheerful female voice asked. Yes, this is she, Jada replied, sitting up straighter. This is Priya, calling on behalf of Mr. Musk. He mentioned meeting you last night and asked me to follow up. Do you have time to discuss an opportunity? Jada's heart pounded, and she held her breath. Yes, absolutely, she replied quickly. Wonderful, Priya continued. Mr. Musk was very impressed with your background. He mentioned that you have an engineering degree. Correct. That's right, Jada said. I graduated a few years ago. Excellent. He'd like to invite you to Tesla headquarters for a meeting to discuss working with us. Can you come in tomorrow? Jada's jaw dropped. Tesla headquarters? A meeting? Everything was happening so quickly. Yes, she stammered. I can be there. Priya gave her the address and time, adding, don't worry about transportation. We'll arrange for a car to pick you up. After the call ended, Jada stared at her phone, struggling to believe what had just happened. A wave of emotions surged through her: hope, relief, and overwhelming gratitude. The next morning, a sleek black Tesla arrived at the parking lot where Jada had been living for weeks. The driver, a sharply dressed man, stepped out and opened the door for her. Ms. Harper? He asked with a polite smile. Yes, that's me, Jada replied, feeling a mix of excitement and anxiety. Welcome. We'll be at Tesla headquarters shortly, the driver said. During the ride, Jada marveled at the car's quiet engine and luxurious interior. Felt like she had stepped into another world. This was far from the life she had known, and she couldn't help but wonder if this was truly the beginning of a new chapter. When they arrived at Tesla headquarters, Jada was awestruck by the modern buildings gleaming in the sunlight. Surrounded by lush green trees, employees moved purposefully, their faces reflecting focus and determination. The driver escorted her into the main building, where Priya, a professionally dressed woman with a warm smile, greeted her. Jada, it's wonderful to meet you in person, Priya said, extending her hand. It's great to meet you too, Jada replied, shaking her hand firmly. Follow me, Priya said, leading her through bustling hallways. Mr. Musk is eager to see you. Jada was brought into a sleek conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a stunning view of the Tesla campus. Everything around her gleamed with modernity, filling her with a mix of excitement and nerves. A moment later, Elon walked in, wearing a dark blue blazer over a simple white shirt. Jada, he said with a smile, extending his hand. It's great to see you again. It's great to see you too, Jada replied, trying to keep her voice steady despite her nervousness. Please, have a seat, Elon said, gesturing toward the table. As they both sat down, Elon leaned forward, his gaze focused. First, I want to thank you for being open to this opportunity. I know life has thrown you some tough challenges, but I believe in second chances, third chances if needed. Your engineering background caught my attention. But more than that, it's your resilience that stands out. I think you'd be a great fit here. Jada felt her throat tighten with emotion, but she managed to nod. Thank you, she said softly. I'd like to start you in an administrative role, Elon continued. It'll give you time to get settled and learn more about the company. From there, we can explore transitioning you into an engineering position, depending on your interests and goals. Jada blinked, processing his words. Are you serious? She asked, her voice trembling. Absolutely, Elon replied with a smile. We've all faced hardships. What matters is what we do next. So, what do you think? Jada paused for a moment, her voice shaking. I think this is the opportunity I've been praying for, she said, tears welling up in her eyes. Elon, he said with a grin. Just call me Elon, and you don't need to thank me. Let's make this happen together. Jada had begun a new journey, one she had never imagined would be possible. Jada's first day at Tesla was a whirlwind of emotions: nervousness, excitement, and a deep sense of hope. She had worked in the tech industry before, but now she was at Tesla, one of the leading companies in technology and green energy, a place she had never imagined herself stepping into. Starting in an administrative role wasn't the engineering position she had once dreamed of. But Jada wasn't discouraged. She reminded herself that this was just the first step, and if she worked hard, the door to a brighter future would eventually open. That morning, Priya gave her a tour of the office, introducing her to her new colleagues and explaining the tasks she would be handling. Your job today is to help organize meetings and take down any necessary notes, Priya said, her tone gentle yet professional. Don't worry, you'll get the hang of it quickly. Jada smiled, doing her best to exude confidence. Thank you, Priya. I'll do my best. The work itself wasn't overly complicated. But the fast-paced environment at Tesla posed a significant challenge. Jada's new colleagues, whom she met throughout her first day, were busy and laser-focused. They moved swiftly between desks, discussing projects in technical jargon that Jada couldn't always grasp. It left her feeling a bit out of place. But Jada wasn't one to give up easily. She listened intently and tried to learn from those around her. Whenever someone mentioned technical terms she didn't understand, she jotted them down in her notebook to research later. Even the small administrative tasks she was assigned, she approached with meticulous care, determined not to make any mistakes. That afternoon, Priya took Jada to the Tesla cafeteria. It was a spacious, modern space with glass walls that offered views of the lush green campus outside. Employees sat in small groups, chatting about work or sharing lighthearted stories about their lives. Priya smiled at Jada. "How are you feeling? Everything going okay?" Jada took a deep breath, glancing around. "It's so different," she said, her voice soft but tinged with wonder. "I feel like I have so much to learn." Priya nodded, her tone empathetic. "That's true. Everyone has their starting point, but you're doing well. Just stay persistent, and you'll soon find your place here." In the first few weeks, Jada gradually adapted to the pace of work at Tesla. She worked tirelessly, not just during office hours but also in the evenings. After finishing her tasks for the day, she often stayed behind to read technical documents, striving to grasp new knowledge. Although she was no longer working as an engineer, her passion and love for the field still burned brightly within her. However, feelings of insecurity continued to linger. Her colleagues, working alongside her, had solid educational backgrounds. They were graduates of prestigious universities and had experience at major companies. In contrast, Jada often felt like she was racing to catch up, as if she were an outsider stumbling into this world. She couldn't help but compare herself to her coworkers. Once, during a meeting, she watched younger engineers confidently present their ideas to the entire room. She couldn't stop herself from thinking that if it hadn't been for the hardships she had faced, perhaps she too would have that confidence. Perhaps she too would be one of those standing at the front, speaking passionately about a project she believed in. But Jada understood that comparison wouldn't lead to anything positive. She decided to focus on what she could do and to put her best effort into even the smallest tasks. In the evenings after work, Jada dedicated herself to learning. She studied materials and even enrolled in free online courses to improve her knowledge and bridge the gaps in her understanding. One day, Jada was sitting at her desk, fully engrossed in jotting down tasks, when a deep, warm voice spoke beside her. "Hi, Jada. Do you have a moment?" Jada looked up, startled to see Elon Musk standing right in front of her. Wearing a slight smile, he stood casually, hands in his pockets, his eyes radiating friendliness. "Of course, Mr. Musk," she replied quickly, feeling her heart pound. She hurriedly closed her laptop and stood up. "Follow me," Elon said, gesturing toward the end of the hallway. Jada followed him, a mixture of nervousness and excitement swirling inside her. They walked through glass-paneled corridors, sunlight streaming through the windows, casting shimmering patterns on the floor. Eventually, they entered a conference room with clear glass walls that overlooked the lush green campus. Elon turned to face her, his smile still intact. "I've heard great things about you," he said, leaning against the conference table. "You're doing an excellent job." Jada tried to smile, though she couldn't hide her nervousness. "Thank you, sir. I'm just trying to do my best." Elon nodded, his expression filled with understanding. "I know that feeling. I've been in situations where I felt like I was in over my head. But the important thing is to remember why you started and to focus on the work, not the noise in your head." Jada looked at Elon, feeling as though his words struck a chord deep within her. "I just don't want to let anyone down," she said softly, her voice trailing off. Elon studied her for a moment, his gaze sincere. "You're not going to let anyone down, and even if you stumble, that's part of the process. Nobody's perfect. What matters is that you keep moving forward. Jada smiled, feeling a weight she hadn't realized she was carrying begin to lift. Thank you, she said earnestly. Anytime, Elon replied, then gave her a playful grin. Now, I have another challenge for you. Elon looked at Jada, his expression shifting to one of seriousness yet filled with encouragement. We're working on a new project, something experimental. I want you to join the development team. Jada felt her heartbeat quicken. What's the project? She asked, unable to hide her curiosity. A prototype for a new battery, Elon said, his eyes lighting up with passion. If successful, could revolutionize how we store energy. We're still in the early stages, and it's going to require a lot of creativity and unconventional thinking. I believe you can bring a unique perspective to this project. Jada hesitated for a moment. This was the kind of opportunity she had always dreamed of, but it also filled her with fear. She worried whether she was capable enough to take on such a challenge, whether she could meet Elon's expectations. But then she thought about the nights she spent sleeping in her car, the days when she felt like she had lost everything. She hadn't given up when everything seemed hopeless. Why should she hold back now? Jada lifted her head, her eyes filled with determination. I'd be honored to join, she said firmly. Good, Elon said with a smile, straightening up. I'll have Priya send you the details. Welcome to the team. In the months that followed, Jada poured all her energy and passion into the new project. The work was incredibly demanding, requiring long hours and, at times, sleepless nights to solve complex problems. Yet, the pressure didn't deter her. Instead, it fueled her determination to prove herself. At first, her teammates were skeptical of her abilities. They were aware of Jada's limited experience in the energy technology field and the challenging circumstances she had endured. However, as they worked alongside her, it quickly became clear that Jada possessed a creative mind and an unrelenting work ethic. She wasn't afraid to ask questions, experiment, or explore innovative approaches to tackle issues. One evening, as the team gathered in the lab to review the project's progress, Jada stared intently at her computer screen, analyzing data from the battery prototype. Suddenly, an idea struck her. Wait a minute, she said, her eyes lighting up. If we adjust this structure, it could significantly improve the battery's efficiency. Her teammates, initially hesitant, listened as she explained her thought process and double-checked the data. They soon realized Jada was onto something. Her idea might be the key to solving a problem they'd been struggling with for weeks. I think you've cracked it, Jada, one of her colleagues said with a grin. That's exactly the kind of thinking we need. Jada felt a surge of pride. For the first time, she truly felt like she belonged. A few weeks later, the battery prototype was ready for its first major test. The team gathered in the lab, the air thick with anticipation and excitement. Elon Musk himself was present, his presence underscoring the importance of the moment. Let's see what we've got, Elon said, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. Jada stood among her colleagues, her heart pounding as the lead engineer activated the system. The room fell silent as the battery came to life, a soft hum filling the air. Gradually, the performance metrics appeared on the screen. The battery's efficiency exceeded even their most optimistic predictions. Cheers erupted in the room as the team hugged, clapped, and congratulated one another. Jada stood still, feeling like she was living in a dream. Her efforts had finally paid off. Elon walked over to her, his expression filled with pride. You did it, he said. We did it, Jada replied, a broad smile spreading across her face as tears of joy rolled down her cheeks. Don't be so modest, Elon said with a smile. Your idea made this happen. Never forget that. The success of the project marked a new chapter in Jada's career. She was promoted. Her name appeared in internal reports, and she was even mentioned in industry discussions. But for Jada, the most significant reward wasn't the promotion or recognition. It was the newfound confidence within her. the belief that she could truly make a difference. Jada's journey was far from over, but now she knew she was ready to face any challenge that lay ahead. After the successful test of the battery prototype, Jada officially entered a new chapter of her life. She had proven herself not only to the engineering team but to the entire company. Her contributions were recognized, and before long, Jada was promoted to the position of junior engineer. This was a significant milestone for Jada. No longer confined to administrative tasks, she transitioned to working directly with technical teams, participating in research and development projects for battery technology. While the junior engineer role came with its challenges, for Jada, it was a clear sign that she was on the right path. Each day, Jada woke up in her newly rented apartment, preparing for a long day at Tesla. She no longer had to sleep in her old car. Instead, she felt a sense of joy and pride every morning as she walked into Tesla's expansive and modern campus. The work environment at Tesla was demanding, with immense pressure stemming from the high expectations of Elon Musk and the leadership team. Yet Jada wasn't deterred by the challenges. She took the initiative to learn and grow, tackling new obstacles head-on. Over time, she built strong relationships with her colleagues and became an integral part of the development team. Elon frequently visited the team to check on project progress, and every time he appeared, Jada felt a spark of pride. Especially meaningful were the moments when he took time to ask about her thoughts, listen to her ideas, and seek her feedback on the team's ongoing projects. Elon's words of encouragement not only boosted her confidence but also inspired her to strive for even greater achievements. As time passed, Jada's contributions became increasingly recognized. After the success of the experimental battery project, she continued to work on other major projects at Tesla. The engineering team highly valued her creativity and innovative thinking, which helped her quickly rise to the position of a full-fledged engineer. Every morning, Jada arrived at work with excitement and motivation. She knew she was doing what she loved, and she had rediscovered meaning in both her work and her life. Jada had not only proven her abilities to Tesla but also to herself. She had overcome her fears and insecurities, rising from a person who had lost everything to a respected engineer. One afternoon, as Jada was engrossed in her work, Priya approached her desk with a warm smile. "Jada, Elon wants to meet with you tomorrow morning," Priya said. "He has a new proposal for you." Jada couldn't help but feel a mix of nervousness and anticipation. She didn't know what Elon might want to discuss, but she had a strong sense that it would mark another significant step forward in her career. The next morning, Jada met Elon in the large conference room with glass windows overlooking Tesla's lush green campus. As usual, Elon was dressed in a crisp white shirt and a dark blue blazer, his demeanor relaxed, and his smile encouraging. "Jada," Elon began, his voice brimming with confidence. "You've come this far through your relentless efforts. I've witnessed your successes, and I think it's time we talk about the next step in your career." Jada listened intently, her heart pounding with anticipation. "What do you mean?" she asked, unable to hide her curiosity. Elon smiled, his eyes reflecting pride. "I believe you have the potential to become a leader. Tesla doesn't just need great engineers. We need people who can lead and inspire others. You've had invaluable experiences, and I think you can share them to help others grow." Jada was taken aback, her heartbeat quickening. "A leader?" she repeated, her voice filled with surprise. "I've never thought I could do that." Elon leaned forward, his expression earnest. "You can. Sometimes we don't see our own potential until someone points it out. I believe you can be an excellent leader. Think about it. Jada, we need people like you." A wave of emotions surged through Jada. From someone who had once lived in her car, she was now being given the opportunity to become a leader at Tesla. It felt almost too overwhelming to fathom. But as she looked into Elon's eyes, she saw his genuine belief in her, and that made her feel as though she could accomplish anything. After her meeting with Elon, Jada spent a lot of time reflecting on his proposal. She thought back to everything she had endured, from the challenging days and cold nights spent in her car to the triumphant moments of being recognized at Tesla. She realized that, to become a leader, she needed to confront and embrace her past, sharing her story with others to inspire them. One afternoon after work, Priya approached her with a gentle look in her eyes. "Jada, have you thought about sharing your story with others? I think it would be a huge inspiration." Jada looked at Priya, feeling a hint of hesitation but also recognizing the truth in her words. "I think I should," she replied. "I want people to know that it doesn't matter where you start. What matters is having the determination to change your life." Priya smiled, her eyes filled with admiration. "You've done so well, Jada. I believe your story will help many people." Jada decided to open up and share her story at a company-wide meeting. As she stepped onto the stage and looked out at the attentive faces, she felt a wave of nervousness. But then, she took a deep breath and began recounting the difficult times, the challenges she faced, and the hope that helped her persevere. The room fell silent as everyone listened intently, some visibly moved to tears. When Jada finished her speech, the room erupted into applause. The sound was overwhelming, and Jada felt a sense of relief and pride, not just for confronting her past, but for knowing that her story had touched the hearts of so many. 6 months after starting her job at Tesla, Jada's life had completely transformed. She no longer lived in her old car, nor did she feel lost or insecure. Instead, she had a stable job, a small but cozy apartment, and most importantly, a newfound belief in herself. Jada had become an indispensable part of Tesla. She had been promoted to a full-fledged engineer and was gradually preparing for a leadership role. Meetings and new projects no longer made her feel out of place or hesitant. Instead, she faced them with confidence and excitement about the contributions she could make. One day, Elon approached her desk, his eyes filled with the same confidence and encouragement as always. "Jada," he said, "you've come so far. I think it's time we start preparing you for a leadership role." Jada looked at Elon, a smile spreading across her face. "I'm ready," she said, her voice steady. Elon smiled back. "Good. Keep building, keep dreaming, and never forget what you've overcome." As Jada stepped out of Tesla's office that afternoon, her heart was full of emotion. She thought back to that night when she first met Elon in the dimly lit parking lot, with nothing but an old car and a weary spirit. Now, she not only had a job but also a bright future ahead, a future she had once only dared to dream of. Jada's journey was far from over, but she knew she was ready for whatever lay ahead. She had rediscovered her confidence, her passion, and her hope. Above all, Jada knew that nothing was impossible as long as she dared to dream and take action. Jada Harper, once someone who had lost everything, had now become a promising engineer and a future leader at Tesla. She would never stop dreaming, never stop building, because life was a journey of constant progress, and she was ready to face all the challenges and opportunities that awaited her.